people.
Yeah.
Like, this is a human story, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're talented enough to do this thing that was very public and very visible. That's only one aspect of that person's life. I'd overcome so much, you know, as a young kid. I had open heart surgery. I had a heart defect. And this is the same kid who went on to play 10 years, you know, never missed a game and had an historic career. And it was great. So I'm like, God watched me then.
Yeah.
Like, he had a plan for my life then. What would make me think because this thing happened, I got divorced and things have changed, that he won't have a plan for me now? It was really my mom, you know, it was a conversation I had with her, and she kind of sat back and was like, look, you've tried everything. Done the coaching, tried to be an agent, you tried to teach, tried to broadcast, tried to write, tried to be a financial advisor. You've done everything.
Yeah.
Why not nursing? One of the reasons why I feel like I'm on social media is just so people know that I'm okay.
Yeah.
You know, like, that's it. You know, I don't need like all the followers, but if people like check in and just see what's going on, it's like, okay, Brick is like, he's alive, he's doing well. So I think there's not many forums where you get a chance to just talk about like where I'm at in my life. You know, like, yes, people can see snapshots. Oh, the Brooke Show is becoming a nurse, or this has happened, or maybe they see a picture of the wedding, but like to engage in like conversation. And then like we talked about, it wasn't linear, you know. There's been some ups and downs. And I think when I was going through a challenging time, I felt inspired when I could tell, when people were very honest about what they were going through. And I'm like, man, this person, I knew a person in high school or growing up who was very honest all the time. And she had some challenging things that had happened to her. And I just had so much respect for her because I'm like, yo, how are you doing this? But she's always been like that. Always was able to just tell it in a very public fashion to whomever. And I'm like, you know, there's a lot of power in being able to tell your truth. And so this is just kind of like an opportunity to engage on a level where it's like, hey, I'm telling you my story. And this is where I am today, you know?
Gotcha. How are you doing? Just to kind of kick it off.
You know, I feel good. I mean, there's a lot going on right now. I guess I'm a dad again.
Yeah.
Got a 7-month-old. She's kind of sleeping. She was sleeping, but maybe not so much now. Got married in July.
Congrats.
Starting a new career. Do a little jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
So, you know, and my girls, I have a 10-year-old and 9-year-old, and they are beginning to be a little different. You know, they want their own things. So I'm all right. I'm okay.
Yeah, I love that. So, obviously you played in the NFL and have a pretty storied career, you know, Pro Bowler, 10 years, NFL stands for not for long, and you got a lot out of it. Did you leave the game how you wanted?
I think so. You know, I didn't want to be booted out the game.
Yeah.
I wanted to leave the way I came in. I saw a couple examples of people who, you know, had great careers, but they were treated kind of differently once they'd gotten a little older and played a little bit. And I was like, you know, it would be a shame to kind of have this entrance and not leave in a way that I wanted. When the opportunity kind of came where I had some decision making to do, like, hey, do I stay on the team? Do I resign? Do I kind of look to go somewhere else? It was the first time where I had a chance to just like stop back and think like, maybe this is a time where I should stop, you know, like, I don't think I'm going to the Pro Bowl anymore. At that time, you know, we were good, but not necessarily Super Bowl good, you know. We'd kind of did the AFC Championship runs. So I was like, you know, what do I really hope to gain now out of the game? And I feel like the game had given me a lot. So if I had to stop, maybe this would be a good time.
You know, you play in a city that's different than most. Like I played in Cleveland. We don't have, you know, New York Mecca media. How do you even walk away with the game or walk away from the game when you're so integrated in the community? Like, what's your identity like of being Brick in the Ring of Honor versus just being Brick now the civilian trying to figure out life?
I think that identity question is huge. You know, I think for many of us who've played, and regardless of what level, like you do so much. I think of the camps, the training, the eating, trying to gain weight, trying to lose weight. You know, you do so much to like perfect your craft. and then you're identified as this person, as this athlete, and you begin to, your social circles or, other athletes, your events, even how you go to church. Oh, I'm with my chaplain, on Tuesdays or before a game. Like, so much of what you do is as an athlete. And so when you leave the game, you're kind of in limbo, right? Because it's like everything that I've done for the last 10 plus years has been in this football context.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care if I was going to a nonprofit event, it had, the fact that I played associated with it. And I think that really messes you up.
Did you try to shed that, or did you lean into it, or were you just kind of, I actually have no idea how to navigate this new world for a little bit?
I feel like probably you go through all those phases, because I think initially you feel like, who am I?
Mm-hmm.
I was actually going to a teammate's game. He at that time was in Cleveland. I had retired, relatively recently. So this is my first time being in that environment. And I was on the sidelines, and I saw, some of the Jets players. And I did not like it.
Yeah.
It was just like, I didn't know like what to do. I felt weird. I felt very awkward. That outward world sees you as the same person,
Mm-hmm.
but like inside looking out, I don't feel like I'm the same person, And then I began to lose some weight because I wasn't, naturally as an athlete, I needed to gain and eat and work out to maintain. But when I stopped doing that, you stop lifting heavy weights. The muscles kind of like, okay, we good. You don't need me. All right. If you need me, you know how to get me. I'm out. I started getting a little lean,
Yeah.
and I didn't feel like I didn't know who I was.
Yeah. How are you spending your time during? Because there's just this bridge to cross between, you go from this highly structured life, now you have no structure and a lot of time. How are you even spending your time during this season?
I think that's what's challenging. So you kind of, a lot of the advice that I'd gotten was, man, this is a great opportunity to explore your interests.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just began. So I was like, okay, I'm going to be a writer. I'd done some writing. I'm going to continue that. So I reached out to some of my contacts. I had the opportunity to write, but I wasn't seasoned enough or had the background enough to get something that was like a staff job or a job with the paper or magazine. So I'm like, all right. So am I going to go back to school? Maybe I could explore some other opportunities. I take internships. And I do that for a time, and then it would come to a point where maybe an offer would be made, and I'm like, okay, great. Let me do this for a while. Let me see what this is about. But then it would be, oh, well, to do this, you also have to, move some of this over as well. And I'm like, well, but I don't want to do that. Like, I just want to do the job. What happens if I don't like the job?
Yeah.
I feel like I'm committing too much. So I think, you go into this place of trying to recreate that identity through work.
Mm-hmm.
That connection, that feeling of, oh, I'm connected to this space, is just not there. How do you compare what you've been doing to this new thing that you're trying, and you're trying to give it good effort, but you're like, I don't even know how to start really.
Yeah.
And then when I do start, it's like, it's a little bit foreign. It's foreign.
You played a long time, and so one would assume that you made a lot of resources, and a lot of times athletes retire and they just kind of coast off into the sunset. They play golf, they do charity work, they just enjoy their life. Why even to go back to work, or the need to feel that you had to work?
A lot of people that I look up to and respect, they find ways to continue the journey. I really feel like it's only in sports where there's a thought that, oh, if you're financially secure or you handle your resources well, that you can just like stop. I'll say Warren Buffett, or dare I say Elon Musk, who I've heard is almost close to making $1 trillion. Mm-hmm. Like, he was able to stop a very, very long time ago, right? There's not somebody telling these gentlemen that they need to stop working. They're still kind of exploring their passion. And I'm like, only when I see athletes, and if you want to stop, that's your right. But I don't know that it's recommended that you do stop, because again, you're still relatively young, right? You still have more life to kind of figure out and navigate. and ways to like contribute to your community. So I think the trick is to reinvent.
And so as you're going through this process, is it a lot of times we are figuring out by ourselves?
Right.
Are you on this journey alone, or are you bringing in other teammates? Are you vulnerable and saying I need help?
I think it's tricky because after I stopped playing football, my relationship with my former partner kind of soured. I don't think in response to not playing, but I just think during that time it got pretty challenging.
Mm-hmm.
So I think when you have a relationship that's not doing well, you separated yourself from the sport that you've known, it can be very confusing, a very confusing time. I will say that, my parents have been always in my life. They've always been very supportive of me. And I think I've always had a core group of friends that have been very supportive of me as well. But I'm somebody who, when I go through my difficulties, I tend to pull away.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would say during these periods of time, I don't know what kind of support I would have needed to feel more connected, but I definitely felt like I pulled away.
And I guess, do you know how to, I would imagine you don't even know how to seek support as a person that's been the self-reliant, will your way to do whatever you need to do.
It's so interesting. Like, as an athlete, a lot of times, your feelings don't matter, right? Like, it's like, go play, or you got
take a shot, take a pill.
You know what I'm saying? Like, just go. Like, what I'm saying? You have this opponent, you have these practices. Like, it's always been hard. It's always been challenging, and it's like usually you just eat it and like figure it out. You know what I mean? During college, those were some of my more challenging times. And it's like, what I've learned from that is you grind, you struggle, and then you just figure it out.
Yeah.
And if you grind and struggle long enough, good things can come out of that, right? You're going to be like refined, sharp. That mentality in some ways can be very helpful in sports, and in other ways can be kind of detrimental in life.
Yeah.
Because you're not really asking for help. You're not really seeking answers outside of your immediate circumstance. You're just trying to like figure it out. Those aren't always the right tools, I think, to find what you're looking for.
That's one of the things I realized is like, sports is a highly structured environment.
Mm-hmm.
You know when to show up, kind of you can see somebody else that's kind of, this person's like my body style. I can just mimic what they've done and, become it. So, this world is not. Like, you kind of have to choose your own adventure, figure it out. When did you start reaching out for help, and what was that process like?
Once I, was going through my divorce process, I was like, you know what? I think I need some help. So I reached out to a therapist, got that. I had a relationship with a member from my church. And, during that time I'd gone through, several different churches, but I had a relationship, and I just tried to stay connected. I think faith has always been something that I relied on. And even when I didn't want to, or felt as though somehow my faith had fallen or failed, I just wanted to stay connected. I just want to stay connected. So I would do kind of like one-on-one kind of Bible sessions, if you will, just to stay connected. And I felt like as I had different pillars, there would be one or two friends that I would just kind of be very open and honest with, and they helped me. And so I think as I gradually just started to have these different pieces collectively, it kind of rose me up a little bit.
Unpack those three things. What'd you learn, without getting into the details of what you spoke about? What'd you learn about yourself through therapy? How did your faith kind of expose some other areas, and how'd your friend group?
I think I was able to be more honest with myself. I think before I got into therapy, I thought therapy was gonna, make it seem as though the problem didn't exist, even before it even happened. That's the space that therapy was gonna get me to. But therapy really taught me a place of acceptance. Therapy taught me how to understand and process what I was going through, where I was okay with what has happened or where I'm at. My therapist would ask me, if you were a friend to yourself, what would you tell yourself? And I was like, I would tell myself that I love you, and we're gonna figure this out.
Yeah.
And I think even as I reflect on those words, it was very encouraging to me because I am loved no matter what I do, right?
Yeah.
No matter if I perform well or if I don't. Coming from a sports world, you don't feel that, right? If I perform well, then I get rewarded.
Yeah.
If I don't perform well, then, I'm going to get talked bad to, I got to worry about my spot, or, my contract is up and now they're having different kind of conversations. Not like, hey, we're going to extend you.
Yeah.
It's like, maybe we need to rethink about some things, right? Maybe 1 year we'll look at you. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I've never had this before. But I think it allowed me to just be a little bit more honest with myself. Another thing that therapy taught me was like to separate situations. Meaning, if I'm getting divorced, you might be like, oh, well, I didn't do this right, and so that means I'm a bad person, and this is wrong, and this is wrong. And it's like, no. You're still a great father. You're still a strong person in your community. There's one area where, you're having some challenges. So let's just talk about that. Let's fix this, or let's address this.
Yeah.
But don't group it all together, because
Yeah.
then you kind of spiral.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it brought me some clarity. That was the therapy piece. The friendship piece, it really showed like who I leaned on in those moments.
Yeah.
And I felt like really blessed to have friends who, in my lowest of times, I could lean on and feel like, you know what, they're there. You know what I mean? And it wasn't even like, I needed them to say words, or just presence was necessary. So that's what I learned from that. And I knew that I didn't need a lot of friends. I just needed
the right group of friends.
I just needed them there.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the last piece of just faith, that was like my inspiration, right? Like I'd overcome so much, as a young kid. I had open heart surgery. I had a heart defect. And this is the same kid who went on to play 10 years and, never missed a game and had an historic career. And it was great. So I'm like, God watched me then.
Yeah.
Like he had a plan for my life then. What would make me think because this thing happened, I got divorced and things have changed, that he won't have a plan for me now? So I think those three pillars were things that like allowed me to really, get to where I needed to be.
You're going through the storm, but then you're also trying to figure out you, and a lot of what's tied to you is sometimes what you do, but it's not like you can just go get a job, or what is the process to go get a job, where you're just calling and saying, hey, I'm Brick, hire me.
Right. I when I did try that, lean on my network, or lean on some of these opportunities, I don't feel like the jobs that were eventually that I engaged were just the right fit. Sometimes I did feel like there were some strings attached, or I just didn't feel connected to the job. So it was really my mom, it was a conversation I had with her, and she kind of sat back and was like, look, you've tried everything.
Mm-hmm.
You've done the coaching, you've tried to be an agent, you've tried to teach, you've tried to broadcast, you've tried to write, try to be a financial advisor. You've done everything.
Yeah.
Why not nursing? You're a very curious person. You like to explore. Nursing will give you that opportunity to explore. You'll never get bored. There's always something for you to do. Just try it. And if you don't like it, you don't have to do it. And I was like, I don't know that I ever saw myself as a nurse. There wasn't, many nurses that I was around that were males, so I just didn't know that there was a natural fit for men to be in nursing like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I was like, you know what? I will try. Maybe I'll do some prereqs and, just see what happens.
Are you going back to college? Or are you looking?
Yeah. So I went back to Bucks Community College, and I was like, I'm gonna just start taking some classes, and this will tell me whether I can do it or not. Because, in school, I was a good student. I went to the University of Virginia. That's where I felt like I was challenged, because I felt like UVA was a hard school, and to play football, I just had to figure out how to graduate. It was less about, initially I thought I'm going to get into comm school. I'm going to, be in Wall Street, work in finance. I'm going to do it. And then I took econ and calculus. And then I was like, this ain't for me. This is not for me. It's not, no. And I think, but that really shook my confidence academically. So I'm like, oh, maybe I'm not smart, like that. I'm a hard worker, or maybe I'm bright in some ways, but maybe I'm just not that smart. And so to go back to school and do sciences, chemistry, I'm like, can I really do this? It really kind of helped build my confidence through the process because I did not believe that I would be able to do it.
And is that some of that from the experiences of the previous jobs not working out, or just from an academic rigor side?
I think, like I said, going to UVA was pretty challenging.
Yeah.
So I didn't have the nice scores that I had gotten accustomed to having, earlier in life. I graduated and I was, I did the things that allowed me to do that, but it wasn't with the type of grades that I was like proud of. Going back to school, I just thought, I'm like, oh, this is going to be like UVA again. Like,
Yeah.
I'm going to have to struggle. And I just didn't have a lot of confidence that I was going to be successful.
Let's address the elephant in the room. Like 10% of people, males, are nurses.
Mm-hmm.
It's a more female-dominated industry. And playing football is like, you're proud to say, I'm a football player in the NFL.
Yeah.
What is your mindset when you're like, man, I'm going into an industry that I'm really different in this space?
Yeah.
Hey, Brick, what are you doing? I'm a nurse. Probably talking to your friends. Hey, you're a nurse?
Yeah, I got fired up a little bit. I remember I went to karate class one time, and I was like, yeah, I'm a nurse. He's like, you a nurse? So like, you wipe butts all day? I'm like, dang, like, he got me. He got me. But it's one of those things, like, when you get involved, then you kind of learn like what the real story is. So as my mom said, I'm a curious person. And so the more I got involved, the more I would see people who are like-minded. There'll be other males. One of my first person that I met, he was into jiu-jitsu. He was interested in becoming a CRNA. Like, he was really driven. And I'm like, man, all right. Like, you just kind of look at your friends and your peers in class and you're like, what are these people about? And then you get into the hospital setting and you're like in the emergency room and you're in the ICU and you're like, oh, I see males here. I see what they're doing. And you get inspired.
Yeah.
And then even like the opportunity to be a provider. Oh, I could be a nurse practitioner, have a practice of my own, see patients, diagnose.
Yeah.
I'm like, man, that's not what I thought nursing was at all. But there's like a lot in it. And I think I used to have this person who used to say, if you can't get past the facade or the veil, you'll never get to know the real me.
Yeah.
And so I think sometimes the entry point, oh, there's not a lot of men in nursing. Oh, maybe it's more. That can dissuade you. But if you go forward, like go into it, you can find what you're looking for. There's a lot in it, but you kind of got to be in the know, And so like when I'm in the hospital setting and when I'm engaging other people, you realize like, oh, there's a space. But I do think it's a certain person that can do it,
What is that person, just out of curiosity?
I think it's somebody who isn't bothered by the fact that, there are many women in the space, or maybe that they have to kind of be a little bit more independent and more of a pioneer to figure out what they want. I would also say that there may take a couple steps to get to where you're going.
Yeah.
So maybe you bedside, okay, maybe that's not what you want. Maybe you need to go to a different department. Maybe you need to continue your education and specialize.
Mm-hmm.
I do think there's a space for what you're looking for, but if you stop at the first challenge, then this ain't for you.
Yeah.
If you're like, well, I can't do this because I'm one of, two males on this unit, this ain't for you.
Yeah.
But if you're able to like persevere and like get through that and learn and get your skills together so that you can be more independent, and now you how to operate wherever you go, maybe there's a place for you here,
I think what's fascinating though is we are human and we do care about outside noise more than we're supposed to.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that you're like, no, this is the journey that I want to be on.
Right.
And I want to do it. And as I get more involved in it, I learn the options that are best suited for me I can eventually get what I want.
Yeah.
I think that's super fascinating.
Like therapy, like some of these other things that we talked about, it's a very like personal, introspective type journey because you have to know who you are, right? If I'm doing this for the wrong reasons, I'm not going to get the right output. I'm not going to get what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
But if I really tap into like, well, I want to serve,
Mm-hmm.
I want to grow in my knowledge. This is an area that interests me. I'm intrigued by this.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to find what I'm looking for in the space.
Yeah.
I'm going to grow my skill set. Typically, when you do anything new, it isn't the same way when you've had experience with it. So what do I look like 3-5 years in?
Mm-hmm.
What do I look like if I had the opportunity to try different specialties?
Mm-hmm.
What do I look like if I had the opportunity to go back to school and further my education?
Yeah.
Now you've really created somebody who's well-rounded, well-versed, and can offer something that not many people have. You know, a background in sports, medical background, and still can sit down and have a well-rounded conversation. I think you've created something that you don't get if you don't have that life experience, if you don't go through some challenges, if you don't do something that's different than the masses.
Yeah. I'd imagine it helps you empathize with people.
100%, 100%. And I think, you know, I work in oncology, so I do see a variety of patients. And I will say the one thing that I kind of hit home was when my teammate, Nick Mango, had passed. Sometimes you expect somebody who is older to pass, and maybe you can accept it a little bit more. But when it's somebody your age, working in your same role, you know, similar family, similar, you know, it just rocks you. And then I think working in oncology, it's very similar because there isn't just a one type of person who is afflicted with cancer.
Yeah.
They could be very young, they could be very old, they could be doing well in life. It can be a shock to them. It could be something that they've had for a long time. And I think it really gives you like perspective. It grounds you in ways that, you know, it just grounds you.
I guess 2-part question. How does that now change the way that you live life? Because you realize you've lost 2 teammates, or probably, you know, multiple teammates that way before they were supposed to. And you're seeing real life health every day of people that come in normal and, you know, unfortunately, wherever the sickness is, alters it.
I think it definitely gives you, you know, perspective. And I think it also allows you to reflect on what you do have.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I am grateful for the opportunity to work.
Yeah.
I'm grateful for the opportunity to have a wife.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I got married in July. I'm grateful for my children. I have a 7-month-old, 9-year-old, 10-year-old. I'm grateful for my experiences, my family, and I think it sets the perspective a little bit because you can have a lot, you can accomplish a lot, and it can be taken from you.
Yeah.
And that's on multiple levels. My therapist once said, everybody lives their life and it's like a book and you're reading it, and then the story goes the way you expected until about page 67.
Mm-hmm.
And at 67, the story just goes in a different direction.
1000%.
And it's like, now you have to, you know, figure out how are you going to navigate from that.
Yeah.
And I think in the hospital, you're seeing that people who have been living their lives and now they have to navigate, because sometimes it's very unexpected. They don't necessarily even look afflicted.
Yeah.
But we know that they are. And I think that process really it humbles you in a way.
I ended up spending like 3 weeks in the hospital as a result of this. And, you know, my nurses were amazing. Walk me through the first day you like walk in a person's room and they see this big giant man. What are they thinking? What are you thinking?
You know, I think it takes time to you know, be comfortable in that space, because a lot of times they say you know, confidence is built by demonstrated performance.
Yeah.
And so I think that routine and that repetition helps in being confident, because I don't know any patient that wants a provider or nurse that's like, you know, looks unconfident or nervous or sweating. Nobody wants that. You know, nobody wants that. But I think sometimes it isn't always I'm a nurse, you're a patient. It's like we're people.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna have a conversation with you as a person. And oh, by the way, we are here for a reason. Let me just follow up with you, make sure your medication's correct. Do you have any needs in this moment? And just, you're a person. So I'm going to engage you on that level. And I think that dynamic kind of helps things smooth. But yeah, when you walk in and sometimes people are like, who are you? You're like, who are you? Like, also, sometimes you get those looks like, oh, that's right. I am 6'5".
Yeah.
Okay, let me.
And you made this transition later. I think you're 40.
42, yeah.
40, 42, and it's probably later than some other people started. Are you getting like Ricky Hazing? Are you getting?
I think that's interesting. My preceptor, she's great. She's younger than me, right? She's half my age, or 25, and but she reminds me of like some of my coaches who are like no nonsense.
Yeah.
Because she'll walk in the room and be like,
yeah,
come on, let's go. And it's like I appreciate that. I think she did a great job in like really helping me understand the task at hand. Not oversimplifying it or not making it so look like it's going to be so easy, but like really giving it to me the way it needs to be given, and saying like, hey, you need to do this. This is a standard. Hey, don't forget this. Check your labs, check your vitals. Like, you don't want to wait a couple hours and recognize that your patient is hypotensive. Like, get on that stuff. And I think the charge was hard because it's like, man, there's all these things I got to be good at. Everything is important. Not just, if I do the vitals, I'm good, but don't check my meds. It's all right. No. Everything's important. Putting that expectation in me early, and like making sure that the standard was high, allowed me to rise to the standard versus, you'll get it. No. The standard is here. You need to get here, figure it out. And that was her approach. And that I resonated with that, because that's what I've been doing my whole life, right? Like, you go into that field, I'm not going to come down to your level. You need to come to where I'm at. And it was good.
So you basically never missed a play, highly reliable, never missed a game. She sounds like an amazing vet. What are the things that you find are similar or that you've taken from football that have helped you? Because it seems like you're being highly coachable right now, even though the age difference is there and this is a new industry for you.
In football, there's like a lot of critical moments. One thing that we do is like situational football, right? It might be the 2-minute drive. It might be, okay, we're going to practice third down. We're going to practice red zone. All these things that come up. And I feel like in a similar respect, nursing is like that, right? What happens if you walk on a patient and your patient's not breathing? What are you going to do? What happens if the heart rate is down or the blood pressure is down and you have your heart meds to give? Are you going to give it? You hold it? You gonna tell somebody? Like, it's that kind of space where it's a lot of critical thinking that you wouldn't necessarily, like, I wouldn't know this outside looking in. My mom's a nurse, my grandma's a nurse, my aunt's a nurse. They didn't necessarily share these stories with me. So I'm like, you just hand out. But it's the critical thinking part that I think is something that even in football, I'm going against Dwight Freeney, I'm going against Jason Taylor. I know they got a plan against me. I know the situation. Like, I got to think about all these things and not just say, he's going to come into me. And no, like, he's setting me up. Like, I got to get into that mode. And I think there's a lot of similarities in like just like trusting your instincts, being sharp, doing what you've been trained to do. And there's parallels. There's definitely parallels between the two.
Just hearing you talk, it seems like you're very energized about the beginning and the possibilities of what this new life is now.
I don't even know what to say, because it can be a little rough sometimes, but I do think that there's opportunity. I think when I started football, I wanted to quit football, but I started football because I wanted to prove that I could do this hard thing. When I went to college, it was awful. I didn't like my offensive line coach was really mean. It took some getting used to, but I ended well. I ended a lot better than I started. I came in at like 250. I left at 290. I was, starting a freshman starter, and that took a lot to do because the expectation was high, going against, Mario Williams, going against Cameron Wembley. Florida State was like amazing back then, and like nobody could see them. And now I was rewarded with going against, Dwight Freeney or Julius Peppers, or it's never gotten easier.
The reward is more hard.
Yeah, and that's what I say. Like it's never gotten easier. That's been my life experience, but it's been very rewarding.
Uh-huh.
And I think when you can reflect and you can look back, you're like, man, like look at what I was able to like do.
Mm-hmm.
And it didn't feel comfortable. It didn't feel like I was gonna make it. There was many moments of challenge, but I'm still alive. Like I'm still thriving. I'm still having this opportunity to like grow in ways that I didn't imagine. And I think that's the part of the journey that is the blessing, right?
Yeah.
Because I didn't know how it was going to turn out. When I was in high school or when I decided to play football, I didn't know I'd be in the league. I just wanted to play football at that level. When I got to high school, I just wanted to have an opportunity to play. When I got to college, I just wanted to play. I didn't assume that these things were going to happen, but they did. And I'm like, well, if it happened in that area of my life, why wouldn't it happen in other areas of my life?
I think success is transferable because like once you build the fundamental skills of what you need to do and how you need to approach it, I would imagine the same way that you approach showing up in football, you're showing up as a different version, but the mechanics are probably very similar here.
I like the way that we can evolve as people, right? Like, why do I have to be this one thing for the entirety of my life? We evolve, we grow. I'm not the same person I was at 20.
Mm-hmm.
So I should expect different things. I should do different things. And I think my experiences have allowed me to also grow.
Yeah.
Now I know more,
Mm-hmm. What would you do differently?
In life?
In life and your journey and...
I don't think I'm one person that likes to try to change or micromanage the process.
Mm-hmm.
I appreciate the journey for what it is. I just, pray that I can continue to make the best possible steps moving forward. I don't really want to change anything, even if it was hurtful, because it literally put me to where I am today.
Yeah.
And I feel like in my head, maybe it would have been easier not to have gone through some of those things, but those things help prepare me for what I'm going through now.
Yeah.
Perhaps it's helped make me more relatable to people who've gone through what I've gone through. Perhaps it's humbled me a bit. Like perhaps it's done things that I'm not even considering. And also, perhaps it'll have an impact in my life later.
Yeah.
Right? Because right now I'm where I'm at, but I don't know what my experiences have taught will kind of do for me 10 years from now.
Yeah.
I might need that.
Yeah. Any questions for me?
How do you continue your journey? Where do you hope to go? How do you want to continue to pivot based on all that you've experienced? You've had some high highs and low lows. So where do you think that puts you today, and where do you hope to kind of go with that? And it's kind of open-ended, right? Because you can kind of talk about it as you feel, but like, how do your experiences really move you to that next step?
What's interesting is that I kind of see the world through multiple areas. I see it as an amputee, which helps me be empathetic. I see it through performance as an athlete. I see it through change. I see it through, and that kind of helps what I'm doing now in my world. But just now I don't fear things as much, because it's when you do hit the lowest of lows, like now I feel like I can endure whatever. You probably feel like you have a lot more resilience to endure
100%.
A lot of things in life. And so it makes me a little more free to go, with the understanding that you can recreate the mountain. One of the things that I learned is in order for a valley to be true, mountains have to exist, or high points have to exist on either sides. And so a lot of us have had this mountaintop experience to start our journeys. We somehow figure out that we're in this valley, and then we have to figure out that we can kind of rise back up the mountain again. Mm-hmm. And that's what's really exciting on the journey, to just approach it with the same tenacity of sports, although it be a different industry or outcome or thing, that is what's exciting to me. And to kind of layer on a little bit more faith, I think just being in flow. Like I think God is going to present certain opportunities that when we first met, I don't think if you were thinking about nursing,
right?
Like
No,
that is the natural thing that has evolved in your life, and we can reject it because of our ego, because of our pride, because of what we think others may think. We're like, this is the path that makes the most sense for me in this moment of time. Let me honor that. Let me steward that and keep going.
Now, you asked me the question of, would you have changed anything? And I'm going to give it back to you. Would you have changed anything? Do you feel that making different choices or decisions or would benefit you more now?
I mean, it's the same because I don't know if I knew enough about who I was to even use those experiences differently. Now I'm at such a different place in life experiences that I can almost, it has context, it has meaning of, I know myself more now. And even when I do therapy, when I started doing therapy because of this, I wanted to talk about the accident. And it's, no, we can't talk about just the accident because we have to talk about all of life.
Right.
And how that impacts you. And I just continue to learn more about who I am, who I've been, who I want to be. And just all these experiences are helping me become a better version of, who I want to be long term. But like you said, they're incomplete. Like they're incomplete without the pain, without the highs, without the mistakes, without the this. And I prefer to talk to people now that have lived experiences that aren't talking to theory.
Right.
Like I know you've been through something and it's coming from an informed place that's uniquely yours, not if this were to hypothetically happen.
Right.
This is how you block so-and-so. And I'm telling you this, never done the job.
Right. No, I received that.
Yeah.
I do.
Is there any other area that you may want to go that we haven't unpacked in this?
I feel like we've had a chance to kind of talk about a little bit of everything in the sense that it's a journey, right? So I'm happy that we got a chance to kind of highlight all the things, and that makes us who we are in this moment.
Sports are interesting. You have the people who have played in a high level and you don't really know what they're doing. And then you have other people that they got like a sip in the league and then their journeys are different. But we're all kind of trying to figure out the same transition because we're all like, feel like athletes, and just being able to share like the highs and lows from like a real place and not polish it up so much that it sounds like, oh, DeBrickashaw's journey was so linear and he had it all figured out. But even you had to figure it out, from like an elite level, the journey's the same.
I've always heard, sometimes when people talk about athletes, like we're people.
Yeah.
Like this is a human story, right? We're talented enough to do this thing that was very public and very visible, but that's only one aspect of that person's life. There's all these other pieces, family, faith, trauma, all these other pieces that still affect this person and affect people that we meet on a regular basis, but we just don't have access to their life because they're not known for this highly popular thing, sport. Well, we kind of, take a step back from the fact that, we're focusing on the fact that I'm Jet or that you're on the Browns. Like we're taking a step back from that and just engaging as people. You know what I mean? And I think that sometimes it seems like it should be very obvious, but it's not.
We hide. Like it is the gift and the curse of one would assume you have it all figured out.
Right.
And if we go within ourselves, we may assume we have it more figured out than others. And it's like, who's going to listen to me trying to figure it out when they assume that I'm where I need to be?
Right.
And it becomes very isolating of how do you find your safe space to go find the answers that you need? How do other people find it? And not in comparison to all this other noise out there.
Yeah.
So I appreciate you, man.